Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
What's going on, folks? Welcome back to another episode of the Bloody Water Podcast. That's right, the Bloody Water Podcast. Just in case you forgot, we did a little bit of a rebrand. We announced it in the last episode, but if you're new, fresh, and tuned in, this is where we at, man. Same content, same format, everything is basically the same, but we the best MMA show in town. Knowledge is increased, all of that good stuff. And just in case you forgot, my name is Derick G. I am your host, and joining me is my co-host, the New Mexico native, the Santa Fe bomber, AJ Guillen. Man, what's happening, brother? How are you living? How did you enjoy the fights last night, man? Not only did we get a crazy amount of finishes, not only did we get 80% finish rate, but we had 7 consecutive finishes in a row, man. It was a great time to watch some fights, man. What'd you think?
Oh, it was a great time to watch some fights. Like you said, Derick, 80% finish rate. 4 of the 5 main card fights all had performance of the night win, or 3 of them, One of those was a fight of the night, man. It was a great night of fights last night. I loved it. Tuned in. It was amazing, brother. How'd you feel about it?
Listen, I had low expectations, and sometimes they say that's what ruins our experiences, right? Is we have too high of expectations. But in this case, man, since I had such lowered expectations, because last week was let me get me back. Last week was the Connor show, right? Last week, when you have all the casuals, all the main people that come and maybe watch 1 to 2 cards a year, you expect the next card to be a little bit of a doozy, you know what I mean? A little bit of a dud. But like I said, I was very, very surprised in a very, very good way, man. So with that being said, AJ, let's do a little bit of a record recap really quickly. I got a nice little bounce back, almost hit that 5-0, man. And we're going to talk about what really surprised both of us here in just a couple of minutes, man. But I went 4-1, you went 3-2. Like I said, we blazing back to them positive numbers, you know what I'm saying? Getting it in, all of that good stuff. Before we start, folks, drop a like, subscribe, bloodywaterpodcast.com or Bloody Water, just type that thing in, Bloody Water Podcast, man. You'll find us somewhere on the socials on all of that good stuff, my man. Let me ask you really quickly, AJ. I try to check in every couple weeks or so, maybe every couple months. What are you tuned into right now? What is your preferred podcasting platform where you go and check out your entertainment? Don't even got to be this one, just anything you watching.
Man, I've been big on the Audible books, man, right now. I've been listening to a lot of audio books, but if I had to get my podcast news in, I'm going YouTube, brother. I'm going YouTube still. What about you?
That's the one, man. So I've been Android for years, man. I got an iPhone, all that good stuff now. So I'm Apple Podcast, the whole entire 9, man. Their ecosystem too damn good. But real quick, before we move on, what do you throw something out there? What are you listening to on Audible right now?
Man, right now what I'm listening to is the 12 Rules to Live By Jordan Peterson still, man. I'm looking up that one, as well as Breathe by, I forgot his first name, but it's Nestor, James
Nestor out of San Francisco. Yes, sir.
It's a great book. It teaches you a lot and teaches you quit being a mouth breather out there. I know a lot of people do it, especially in fighting. It's good to be breathing through your nose, but a lot of people in just general life are breathing through their mouths. So, but yeah, same thing with the Jordan Peterson. 12 Rules to Live By. Check it out. It's a great book to listen to.
And he's not joking, man. And I haven't read it yet, but I have read excerpts. And my favorite part about it is in the beginning, right? Make your damn bed in the morning. That's the good rule to productivity in life. Make your goddamn bed when you wake up in the morning. But listen, man, that's enough of this. That's not what the people tuned in for. Lastly, I'm 77-54 on the year, 64-67 for you, AJ, on the year. And let's get into a little bit of recap, my man. So jump straight into that. And you know what we do best. We do a little bit of the best photos of the, of the weekend and whatnot, right? So we're going to start off with this one. This is what I'm just going to title. I'm going to describe it for the folks who are just listening on audio. This is Coach Khabib, man. 4-0 in his tenure so far. It might just be in 2021 or 2020, 2021 combined. But nonetheless, man, it's been really interesting to see this man take on a different role. Now be in the corner, man, not look for the spotlight. You know, he's looking a little heftier, a little more chunky. He walks through naked feet with his chanclas on, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is a killer who is probably going to be one of the next legit fixtures in MMA coaching for the foreseeable future. What do you think about this photo, AJ?
I think this is the future. You hit the nail on the head with that call, Derick. I think if anybody's able to have the tutelage of Coach Khabib, you're going to be sent straight to the top. I mean, we even saw in the fight, Makhachev was just literally like looking at him like, yeah, we've gotten this over. Real calm, real nice, just like, I got it, coach, I got it. I'm full confidence, all in the preparation by Khabib and obviously Mendez in there, Javier Mendez. But I think this is the future, man. This is going to be cool to see Coach Khabib actually, pass down his knowledge about that one specific ground and pound style. We like to see the smash style. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be cool to see.
Yeah, man, I'm going to talk about it, or I'm going to try to remember. I'm going to try my best to remember later to talk about the role of Javier Mendez in this corner, because there was a point where Javier Mendez was saying, like, father's plan, stop striking, go to the wrestling. And Makhachev, he wasn't even looking at Javier Mendez. He was just talking with Khabib in Russian or whatever, So I was like, I've been listening to some Javier Mendez on the Mike Swick podcast, and one of the things that are interesting is that he says it's supposed to be 30 seconds Javier Mendez, 30 seconds Khabib, but it looks like it's the Khabib show all around this time. But with that being said, man, our next piece of news, or our next photo, is a bittersweet one, right? It's not the way that you want to end, but this is what we have. We have some red tape on some UFC gloves that are just left hanging in the cage, and those are the gloves of the Belizean bruiser Marion Reneau. Listen, man, she went out a tough way. She went out on her shield. She went out like a warrior. And Miesha Tate, that's a whole nother story we'll talk about just a little bit later. But at the end of the day, man, how does this picture make you feel? Just viscerally, how does that make you feel?
I mean, it's good and it's bad. It's a bittersweet for me because this is how everybody ends. Like everybody has to end it sometime or another, and you hope it's not too late. But in Marion Reneau's case, it did. She had a good performance. She got pieced up a little bit, so it's sad to see. You always want to go out on the dub, but I don't know the exact number, but it's probably like 90% of the people leave on an L. So it's kind of it's a hard pill to swallow. Excuse me, but it is what it is on this one. Derick, how do you feel about it?
Listen, man, MMA is a brutal sport, and I absolutely agree with you. I really do believe that in MMA, there is no going out just, movie style, right? GSP or Michael Bisping are probably like the only ones. I don't even know if Michael Bisping, he might have left on a loss. But GSP, he's the only one who can ride off into the sunset. Khabib, he called it short because he was wise enough to know, like, hey, man, I can only ride this train for so long. Regardless of how good you are, whatever, Father Time is undefeated. And that's something we talked about last week, too. So next photo we got, this is a two-parter, right? This is going to be jubilation in the first picture, man. This is Mateusz Gamrot, man. And that's like, I love just the enthusiasm. He's so hyped. He's over there shadow boxing, about to beat up Paul Felder in the post-fight interview and all that, man. But what was most important to this is what followed after that. So don't react on this one, AJ, but this is what followed, or this is what happened that made him go with that reaction, which you see a nasty Kimura being held on Jeremy Stephens only about 65 seconds into the fight, man. Nasty. What do you think about that?
Ooh, if you've ever had that internal rotation on your shoulder, like that's going on with that Kimura, man, it's painful. You're ripping some labrum, you're ripping some all kinds of stuff up in that shoulder, and it hurts, man. It's this one is actually very fun for me to watch because I did not expect this to happen at all. I was literally sitting there expecting them to trade a little bit back and forth, test each other out, and they went right at it. I don't remember how fast the victory was. I'm trying to find it real quick.
65 seconds.
65 seconds, a little over a minute, just to get your shoulder damn near ripped out. Yeah, it was impressive, man. This was really interesting to watch because I didn't see Jeremy Stephens going out this way at all.
Yeah,
it's a bad loss for Jeremy Stephens, but a great win for Mateusz Gamrot. And the picture before said it all, man. That energy he had, that exuberance, that's what we love to watch, even at the fall. Even at the fall of Jeremy Stephens. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm absolutely with you, man. I'll just say this. The one thing that popped up in my mind when I was watching this was simply, what is it? You could tap or it snaps, right? And I'm so happy that he tapped because, listen, dude, that shoulder would have been destroyed if he would have just tried to go out on his shield like that. So that's what we got with this one. This one, in all honesty, AJ, this is good. This photo that I'm about to show next is going to be up there with some of my best photos over the course of 2021. I have a folder where I keep some of the best photos, in my opinion, and this one is up there, man. You got Rodolfo Vieira in a tight rear naked choke, a standing, hooked in rear naked choke on Dustin Stoltzfus, and he's literally tapping mid-air. Like the moment he got the choke in, he probably couldn't get a breath in before that, and he just immediately, nope, I'm done. What do you think about that? Obviously, without spoiling too much, we'll talk about it in depth in a second.
Yeah, I mean, this is they say that moment flashes before your eyes. I'm sure this right here for who's the one that fought Vieira, excuse me.
Dustin Stoltzfus.
Stoltzfus. Sorry, I forgot. All respect to Stoltzfus, too, because that was a great fight. But this is the moment where Stoltzfus was thinking, dude, I got an ADA champion on my back. Yeah, I'm tapping. Like, I can't breathe. Let me go, brother, because it's already, you can see it's sunk in. And they're only going back. And Vieira was... They always say don't just drop to your back because you can lose the choke. Man, that choke wasn't getting lost. That thing was so deep. It was already sunk in. It was over.
Yeah, when you were a 16 time gold medalist in grappling across the world, man. Yeah, listen, you don't got to worry about it. You could break a couple of rules, right? But yeah, man, this was super, super nasty. And what's even nastier is the way that Rodolfo transitioned from like wrist control to jumping on this man's back. It was a thing of beauty. I posted it on my IG stories, folks. So if you ain't seen it, go follow me on Instagram at D496. But go just look up the clip, man. Honestly, that was just a thing of beauty. This next photo we got, AJ. There's not much to this, and this was almost at the end of our photo collection. But this is Morozov, man. I just thought it was cool. He's a Kazakhstanian or a Kazakh, whatever you want to call it. He got a cool hat, man. This adds to the collection. You know, you had the Khabib Nurmagomedov, whatever you called it, the hat that he wears. That's super dope. You know, you got Rahman, right?
Makhachev.
Yeah, you know who I'm talking about, man. Our other Kazakh, man. He wears like, crazy animals on his head and whatnot. Just what'd you think of this? I thought it was just kind of cool.
I think it's cool that all of the different types of like the Russian variants, they all have their different kind of hats they wear. And, it's like, they got the classic Ushankas, the classic little, got to pull out the Gumby real quick. Yeah, he's been rocking a Ushanka. We got that Russian support, but
that's right.
It's cool that they all kind of got their own little style, man. This one's more sombrero style, kind of Spain influence on this one. I don't really I love it, man. They all kind of repping their own different little hats they wear. And it's cool because you can see them actually doing that. Like I can imagine all these dudes wearing those to war. You know what I'm saying? Everybody rocking their hat to war. It's like the old school tribes with the shields and stuff, but they rocking their little Ushankas or the one that Khabib got. I think that'd be some intimidating shit to see come out, fighting some dude with a hat that looks like he's about to slay a matador or a bull out there, a matador hat from Morozov. This one's interesting, man. What do you think?
I just really like it, man. I don't really have an in-depth thought about it, but I agree with you. I think about it like this, man. You probably can't see it, folks. Maybe if I turn this way a little bit. I got an American flag behind me, right? I'm repping the unicy, right? The united nature of these 50 states. However, one thing I love about this country is that each individual state has its own flag, right? You rep your own thing, right? You got the New Mexico flag, California flag, Nevada flag, New York flag. I just really like that, man, because it shows we're all independent, but we're all trying to unite in some capacity. So with that, you say, hey, I'm part of this Russian organization, whatever, but at the end of the day, man, I'm a Kazakh, shout out to Morozov, man, huge win for him. And then I'm just going to do another two-piecer, and then we'll get out of here. And not get out of here, but we'll actually start recapping some real stuff, man. Amanda Lemos, man. This is the really best picture that they had up there, man. She's just throwing that clean right hand to the top of Montserrat Conejo's head. This is a wrestler who, when you try to utilize that wrestling and you're facing a real sniper like Lemos, man, you better move your head. You better do something, dip, dive, duck, dodge, shout out dodgeball, you know what I'm saying? Do something crazy, but she got pieced up, man. It was a short night, and this is the second part that I want your opinion on. This is her running around the cage after she dropped Conejo, man, and this is going to be the jubilance on somebody who is probably going to be a real deal factor in this women's strawweight division. Probably I want to say the hardest puncher, but I should probably say one of the most accurate on the chin punchers in the strawweight division that we've seen over the course of her last couple of bouts, man. But just give me the take on that jubilance you see over there. And then you saw her translator after, Worley or whatever his name is, or Real or whatever, over there being like, talking for her, talking into the mic. She gonna be the champion, hyped up. I love it. Give me your take, AJ.
I love it too, Derick. And this right here, this picture to me, we better get used to seeing this, man, because she absolutely dropped a bomb on Conejo, brother. Amanda Lemos was absolutely just like we were talking about. I was saying she's a sniper. Like that right hand, right to literally the nose, top face area of Conejo was so impressive, brother. This is a picture we're going to have to see for a while, or we're going to keep seeing for a while, I truly believe, because I agree with her coach, man. She's going to be right to the top. She has an amazing future, very good defense, and a sniper of a right hand. It's going to be fun to watch Lemos come up, brother. What you think?
I agree with you, man. Like I said, this is one of those photos where I look at it and you see someone who's kind of starting out and you're like, okay, that's going to be that guy, man. And really quickly, AJ, because I don't even want to talk about it. This ain't even the same sport we're talking about, but basketball, right? I think the finals are going on. I'm not tuned in or any of that stuff, but I play basketball my whole life, all that. And there's only one NBA player who I could say that I called their greatness when they were, nobody knew who they were and when they were first coming up. And that was Giannis Giannis.
Kimbo.
Yeah, exactly. The Greek freak. You know what I'm saying? I called it. I was like, this man just needs a jump shot, but once he gets that, game over. Look at him now. This was just about to be a Hall of Fame or something crazy, win a championship, all that. That's the type of similarity that I'm seeing with the Lemoshes of the world, the Shavkat Rachmanovs of the world, things like that, where you're like, dude, these guys are going to be a killer. Just imagine somebody was like, oh, that Khabib guy, you don't even know, man. That dude's going to be a beast. And then people be like, yeah, all right, next thing you know, right, 29-0. So with that being said, man, like I said, we'll get out of here, talk about really quickly, let's recap a couple of prelims before we hit the main card stuff. I just wanted to point out Daniel Rodriguez, D-Rod, he got a big win against a short notice replacement. And I think Preston Parsons is his name, grappling specialist, 9-2, falls to 9-3 now. However, after Rodriguez dropped a split decision to Nicholas Dalby just a couple of fights ago, man, I think that if that fight was removed and he would have won that fight, he would be on a massive streak right now. He would be 6-0 in the UFC. This dude's a problem, man. He's a problem. And I don't think he gets the recognition that he deserves, especially because for a little bit he wasn't really fighting very active, but now he is very active. Just give me your take on just the success of Daniel Rodriguez real quick.
I think D-Rod doesn't get the respect he deserves. I know we've talked about him a lot. We hype up D-Rod a lot. I know I'm a big fan of him, and man, coming forward after the split decision loss to get this TKO win only sets him up to be even further, man. I truly do believe this dude has a big future in the middle or the welterweight division, now, and he just needs to actually be able to put out and kind of start getting those highlight reel finishes, man. D-Rod can bang. He's a bomber. He's big, he's scrappy, he's fun to watch, so you definitely got to check out for him. And I'm personally excited to see him back in the winning category. I know we've brought him up a lot on this show, so I hope the rest of you viewers out there are excited to see him watch too. Derek, what do you take away?
I think that left hand is a problem, a real problem, man. He was just launching that left hand in there, and you could tell when something hit somebody, and so he basically hit Parsons with a clean left cross, and he was just like, oh, my eye, like he got poked in the eye. No, you got punched in your eye, bro. And it was just that's how you know that power, just that snapping, that type where you just like, oh no, something's going on, something's wrong here. And that was the beginning of the end. It was a beautiful thing to see. I will note on the prelims, 3 knockouts, 2 decisions, only 2 upsets. And the other one that I want to talk about, man, this was a dude who had his back against the wall. I sung high praises in my sleepers for the big brother Figueiredo, man. But Malcolm X Gordon, dude, he got a very much needed win. It was also deserved, man, because he was able to control Figueiredo in a way that I haven't really seen before, and it goes to show that this dude, as I said, he was a submission specialist, he's a grappler, this is what he does, man. The BJJ and the control was legit. Do you have any takes on either of these fighters, whether it's Malcolm Gordon or Francisco Figueiredo? Because really quickly, I'm just going to point out, Malcolm Gordon, he went 0-2 in the UFC before this win. He's now 1-2, but he says, oh, the UFC has to keep me. This is where I belong now that I won that fight. I don't agree. I think the UFC could be like, yeah, you won, but we're still cutting you because you ain't really it, man. But what do you think about that?
It's a hard one because in these flyweight divisions, in the lower divisions, these guys are so small and don't really have the exciting fights that everybody likes to see, like the fight right before that Nascimento Badeau fight. That was crazy. But for these little guys, man, they fight so well, but just not too many people are watching. So it's hard to say, man. And both of them, both Figueiredo and Gordon, man, they were putting out some serious talent out there, back and forth. And it got out to a decision win. But I think either way, man, both of these fighters are very talented, scrappy, back and forth fighters. And I actually enjoyed watching the fight. I was rooting a little bit more for Figueiredo. I was a little biased on that one, but I do think Gordon deserved the win. So it's hard just because in my mind, these dudes don't really get the shine they do just because they're smaller. You know what I'm saying? And not just because they're smaller, but just because they don't pack enough punch. They don't have exactly, the crowd behind them. Not many people are watching them. Everybody wants to see some big bombers come in there and lay people out. Whereas the talent really resides in the flyweight and the bantamweight classes, those smaller division classes. And they're packed, man. Those divisions are packed steady. So it's going to be a hard water coming forward for both of these dudes, especially Gordon. Like you said, they think he needs to keep him. Not really, man. Like the divisions are so stacked. You have a lot of people in there that can go anyway. So I hope they get a little bit more shine to them, but we'll see coming forward. What you think?
Well, lest we forget, man, before Henry Cejudo and Davison Figueiredo was really making noise, and clearly now Brandon Moreno, Dana White was like, we're about to get rid of this division, man. Like, y'all ain't really doing it for the fans, all that good stuff. Like, obviously they're fighting for the fans, but the fans don't want to see a bunch of decision wins. We want to see knockouts, want to see finishes, submissions, all that good stuff, man. man. So with that being said, he got a decision win. It was very domination style in terms of like not exciting. So that's the thing, man. This is a business, and that's the thing that we've come to realize covering this sport, right? Is seeing that, especially in the UFC, you can't just win. You have to be entertaining too, man. You have to be a showman, and you have to win in dominating fashion. So it's probably one of the toughest sports that you can probably make a career in, to be honest. But we have to just do a little bit of justice to one of the performances of the nights. That was the only performance of the night that was on the prelims that you just mentioned. We had Alan Boudreaux versus Rogerio Nascimento, man. And this was a fight where Nascimento was getting worked in the first round, man. Alan Boudreaux, I was just like, listen, man, I love the strategy. I even put out a little tweet. I was like, I love the strategy in the first round, but I think he could have got the finish if he stopped smothering his shots, doing the Kevin Holland, punching into your opponent, getting grabbed up. You're fighting a jiu-jitsu guy, obviously who has heavy hands because he ended up winning via TKO, but you're fighting a jiu-jitsu guy, man. You got to be in the pocket, crisp with your boxing, right? But with that being said, man, I just wanted to, before we talk about Nascimento, I just want to really quickly say this is giving me a little bit of concern for Cyril Gane versus Derek Lewis. And the reason why I say that is because Alan Boudreaux, he spent a lot of time training with Cyril Gane over that MMA factory in Paris. And Cyril Gane, we've seen he has power, yes, but he's clearly one of those, you know what I mean? Pick you up or piece you up, move around. And that's clearly what we saw though, right? AJ, when he's been fighting all of these kind of big time heavyweights, right? Now, Alan Boudreaux clearly had the speed advantage, but he didn't have that power in his pop. Nascimento said, if I hit you one time, you're going to bed. Just gives me a little bit of worry. We'll obviously talk about that when that fight comes to fruition a little bit later on. But with that being said, give me just a quick take on what I just mentioned, and also tell me what you thought of Nascimento's comeback win in the second round.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Derick. I think Boudreaux could have won the fight if he would just stayed a little bit more patient, a little bit more at range, and kept dropping those bombs he was dropping. Because he was tagging up Nascimento pretty good in the first round, and then it all changed. And then Nascimento got on his game, started really coming back and fighting hard. I was impressed, man. I was impressed. We're gonna see how this goes forward with like you're saying with the Derek Lewis Cyril Gane fight. So it was a little bit, to me, not as exciting to see that comeback win, because I guess not exciting isn't the word I want to use. It wasn't as surprising to me. I was definitely thinking Rodrigo Nascimento was still in the fight. He was getting hurt, he was getting tagged up, but he never looked out of it, kind of, like KO'd on his feet or anything, where Boudreaux was landing those shots. Then when it came back around and Nascimento started dropping bombs, I knew the end was over. Boudreaux started kind of losing that confidence he had, that exuberance, that motion he was fighting with, that fluidity. So it was really a crazy way to see the tables turn on that whole gambit of a fight they had. What do you think, Derick? What was your takeaway on that one?
My takeaway was simply this, man. You cannot give your opponents these opportunities. When you have your opponent hurt, you have to go for the kill. Like, you have to, right? Because what happened, Nascimento, he was out on his feet in the end of the first round, comes out in the second. What do you know? Fresh, like he had never been starched or nothing like that, man. So it's tough because I'm a fan of Alan Boudreaux, man. I like the skill set. I like those agile, quick heavyweights, but you got to be able to finish the job. And if it's accumulation, keep it on them, apply the pressure, all that good stuff. Nonetheless, man, huge win for Nascimento. Dude's a very, very legit prospect. I forgot who he fought in his first fight. I think it was Tom Aspinall or something, or maybe that was Alan Boudreaux. Something like that, man. But with that being said, that's not very important. Let's move on to this main card, man. Let's get into it. So, fight of the night prediction, I think I came through. I delivered with this one, right? Billy Q versus Mowgli Benitez, man. And my assessment of how this fight played out, I think, was slightly accurate. It wasn't completely. I didn't expect Quarantillo to come in and be jiu-jitsu guy, you know what I mean, and just control Mowgli the entire fight. I honestly thought that was cruising to a decision until he got the stoppage in the third round. But I want to ask you before we talk about Billy Q really quickly, what does this mean for Mowgli Benitez, man? Billy Q had mentioned that nobody had tested his grappling in quite a few fights. Maybe he relied too much on being a kickboxer. What do you think about this?
Man, this fight, this one was crazy because we saw how good Billy Q was on the ground. You know what I'm saying? He was controlling the entire fight. And what I really, really liked about him is he came out and absolutely stiffed Mowgli in the first minute. Literally hit him hard. And it was after that, it was on and game, man. And what I really liked is, Mowgli can kick. And yeah, he has the hardest kicks that, Javier Mendez has ever held pads for and blah, blah, blah. But how you stop a kick is you get on the inside, put it to him. You can't kick somebody if they're literally a foot away from you. You could barely even damn near knee him. We didn't even see Mowgli even land any of those. So to me, man, this was absolutely perfect game plan by Billy Q. Get in there, be the bully, dominate Mowgli, and actually get up in there and like I said, in boxing range, get the grappling going and really dominate him. That's what we saw from Billy Q, man. Absolute domination, perfect game plan, perfect execution. And even after Quarantillo got cracked, almost finished, he still stayed dominant because he was able to rely on that jiu-jitsu, literally rely on it, get back on the cage, put the triangle lock, I believe, had the body lock most of the fight the entire time. It was impressive, man. It was just, to me, excellent game plan. Knew exactly how to beat this dude. It said, sure, you got those kicks. All right, I'll show you how to nullify them. Check this out. So it was a pretty. I wrote down. He put on a master class. Yeah. He was out there showing exactly what to do on a dangerous striker, and it was fun to watch. What was your big takeaway?
My big takeaway is that, to me, I was a little worried after his last performance, right? I was like, I hope the man does not gas himself out again. Like, that's the last thing that we need. However, it looks like he took the Gregor Gillespie approach. And what I mean by that is him basically saying, like, listen, I'm going to get tired, but I know if I'm tired, I can't imagine how my opponent must feel. You know what I mean? And that's what you saw in the second and third round. Billy Q was breathing hard. It was those, and I'm like, oh, that's not what you want to see. However, like I said, Mowgli Benitez, man, he slowed down crazy in this fight. And when you put him on the back foot, when it's like, this is what I've even seen in sparring myself, man, when I'm just going around and I get put on the back foot and I'm just circling around, you get tired. You're like, goddamn, I feel like I'm just on my bike this entire time. I'm going miles in circles and circles, getting chased down by this person. So not only do you got to block, be offensive and all of that good stuff, but you also have to make sure your breathing's intact and all that. I will say, when Mowgli Benitez was able to walk forward, man, he was doing damage. Those were his best moments of the fight. But that's the thing. If Benitez somehow, some way was able to keep Billy Q on the back foot the entire time, man, maybe we would have seen a very, very different fight, because that's the thing. When you get two people who walking forward the whole time, somebody's got to win that battle. And it was a very impressive win for Billy Quarantillo. Excuse me. I keep putting a little Spanish twang on his name, you know what I'm saying? But I will say this is Billy Q's 9th finish of his career. And he outstruck Benitez 100 to 51. So that was plus 49 in the striking margins, man. Very, very impressive. He needed this. He said he was in the best shape of his life, and he absolutely looked like it, man. So huge win for the underdog. This was an upset as well. So let's move on to this next one, man. Rodolfo Vieira versus Dustin Stoltzfus. We already kind of talked about it in the photo collection, man. But listen, we need to talk about something even larger than this. And it was even brought up in the commentary, AJ. One of the things that I noted was that, first off, Vieira's striking looked very, very much improved, right? So this goes to show that he said, okay, listen, man, I know I'm super good at jiu-jitsu. Clearly, obviously, I'm coming in as the jiu-jitsu guy. I need to learn how to use my hands. I need to learn how to move my head. I need to learn how to circle out. He's already done a very good job at circling out, but that boxing definitely improved. However, I will say he was using that jab to perfection against Stoltzfus, but Stoltzfus looked like he just didn't know how to move his head. All you saw the whole time was just... And for those listening, that's just get head snapped back time and time and time again, just with the jab. You saw how bloody Stoltzfus' face was during the fight. That was mainly just jabs all day long. Jab, 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 jab. So with that being said, AJ, do you think that Rodolfo Vieira, his improved striking will work on some of these fighters who are a little higher in the rankings, who have a little more experience and who know how to move their head and do all that good stuff? Do you think that it'll work more against them?
I definitely think he needs to get a little bit better, a little more crisp on the combos, because that stiff jab was working very well for Dustin Stoltzfus. But now that it's kind of gotten a little bit exposed, I think the rest of the 185-pound division is going to catch up. And they are fighting out of the 185 right before
they're middleweights.
Yep, middleweights. Because the rest of the division is very experienced, so a lot of people do have that head movement. They know to bob and dip, pull, even get out of the way. But Dustin Stoltzfus just kind of caught surprise. Even all of us, I think, in the general population were surprised, because Vieira didn't shoot one single takedown for the first round. Literally all that first 5 minutes, jab, 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 move, jab. He was out there hunting for jabs, and he got him, man. It was impressive. Do I think it'll work with the rest of the division? Maybe a little bit at the beginning, but once people realize exactly what the game plan is, Vieira's going to have to come in a little bit more talented with the 1s, 2s, even the 3s, light them up. What impressed me the most is exactly like I said just before, the fact that Vieira changed up his game plan completely and didn't even shoot a takedown in the first 5 minutes, but actually stayed patient. And right in the start of the second, 10 seconds in, that's when he shot the takedown. He was like, okay, I proved that I have the 1s, I have the hands, I can, stay alive on my feet longer than everybody else. But then I'm going back to the game plan. I'm going back to the cookie, going back to my cookie jar, going to dip my hand in and go right to the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because he looked good. The one part about the whole fight that kind of worried me a little bit, and they were talking about it on the fight, is that Vieira, he looks timid. He looks scared, and not necessarily scared of Stoltzfus, but scared of gassing himself out and losing again. Yep. And we even saw at the end when he did get the win, man, he was emotional. He was on the ground breathing, that you saw his stomach pumping breath. And once he got the dub and, they announced it, he was hanging with his team and he started crying. Cause I know for a fact he was in there thinking like, I was close to gassing out. I was close to getting finished. So it was really that highlighted factor of him being like, oh my God, I did it. Yeah. Like I didn't just win, but I proved to myself that I won't gas out and get tired. So that was a cool thing to see, and very interesting to see, because if Stoltzfus would have just stayed a little bit better, he probably could have gassed Vieira out and dominated a little bit. But it is what it is. So what was your takeaways?
My takeaway was basically what you said, man. What is it? Fatigue makes a coward of all men. I think that's the saying, right? And I think that Vieira was basically not implementing the grappling heavy approach because, I mean, if you just watch regular jiu-jitsu matches, man, these dudes get tired. It's like wrestling to a degree, right? You're using all of your strength, all of that good stuff to get in these positions and then mixing it with finesse and doing all this rolling, all that crazy stuff, right? And it's not a jiu-jitsu match. So I think this is also him getting that really good experience and saying like, hey, man, he said it himself. He was like, this was good for me. I need that time striking on my feet, just that ring time. I can't just finish everyone in the first round. Like, I need to get that experience that is very, very much needed if he wants to kind of propel himself up these rankings, man. I will say that for Vieira, he's made note of this already. It's not a surprise. He says, he's probably one of the most anxiety-driven fighters in the UFC, right? He has these panic attacks. Like, he freaks out. He wants the fight to be over. You know what I mean? And you could see it literally. Like, he's just sitting there hyperventilating, like, and it's just like, all right, you know what I mean? Like, you got to get that under control. You've been seeing I think he's been seeing a sports psychologist who made him watch back his last loss like 1,000,000 times or whatever. But what he should probably be doing is getting someone else to regulate the breathing and doing all that stuff and just getting more comfortable in the cage. And there's some people who do say, they're like, dude, I try to like eat my lunch in the cage and just spend literally as much time as possible inside of the literal cage so it could feel like it's natural to me. So when I'm in these spots, kind of like an Islam Makhachev, where he's just looking over and he's like, he got instructions from his coach and he's just like, okay, slow head nod, thumbs up, like, got it. I've been here. I live here. What are we talking about, right? So it's very impressive just to see you overcome those mental blocks right there, because sometimes that's what the fight game is. More than physical, it's just mental, man. It's getting out of your own way. And for Rodolfo Vieira, man, if he can keep this thing up, man, he's a force to be reckoned with. You just got to work on the gas tank. I personally would like to see him move up to 205. Personally, you know what I mean? And then you could really pack on a little bit more, man, and then throwing those jiu-jitsu on the big boys. Come on, man. However, you got to have that power to match. So with that being said, man, this was a very, very good win for Rodolfo Vieira. Like I said, when he puts the jiu-jitsu on, there's almost nobody who could stop him, really, except, when fatigue comes into play. So once again, Dustin Stoltzfus, man, not the performance that we necessarily wanted to see. I still got high hopes for this guy, man. I don't think that he's a scrub by any stretch of the imagination, man. Just give him a little bit of a better matchup. I'm not going to lie. I did think this was a little bit of a high matchup for Stoltzfus personally. But listen, man, you got anything else on that, or are you ready to move on?
Nah, the only other thing is Vieira's got to get on that James Nestor, man. You got to get on that breathe. We talked about it before. Yeah. It'll help out a lot. But no, that was just that was nothing right there. We can move on, Derick.
Yeah, James Nestor, man. Holla at my boy Vieira. Send him a copy of the book. Come on, But listen, man, this next one, Lil Heathen versus the Gamer, man, and the Gamer came to play, man. 65-second win. Mateusz Gamrot. Now you got to learn how to pronounce the name once they get the big win, right? You can't be disrespected, man. Listen, he said, I'm going to use the legendary name of Jeremy Stephens to propel my career, and he did absolutely that, man. It's almost nothing to talk about because we didn't even see a fight. We saw him grab the leg, put him on his butt, grab a Kimura, game over. That was basically it. My question to you, AJ. First, I asked you in the pre-show, is Mateusz Gamrot sending Jeremy Stephens into retirement? Is he going to be cut from the UFC after this fight? And I have to say, double down, absolutely. Because that wasn't just a loss. You got destroyed in 65 seconds. You didn't land one punch. That's the big takeaway. Jeremy Stephens landed 0 strikes in this fight. Mateusz Gamrot landed 1. And he was able to submit him in 65 seconds. Just give me your takeaway for this fight, man.
Yeah, man, I have to agree with you, Derek. I'm doubling down, man. I do think this is the end of Little Heathen. Sad as it is to say, I hope not, but I do think it is, man. 5 L's and almost 6 is the no contest against Yair Rodriguez, back to back to back to back to back to back. Dude, it's rough, man. It's rough to see that happen to a great fighter like Stevens. And what the big takeaway for me is in the face-offs, right when they were going, you saw Mateusz Gamrot a little jumpy, a little jittery when Little Heathen was walking up, and then he finally calmed down and asked him, "Are you ready?" And little Jeremy Stevens says, "Oh man, I was born ready." But real calm, just keeps his hands behind his back, real calm. Didn't really think anything of it. But apparently, he was not ready at all for getting his damn near shoulder ripped out of his socket, because it was impressive. Both fighters came out super fast, but that was a very slick Kimura by Gamrot, and that's kind of how it goes, man. We did see Stevens try to kick out, but when you're that dry in the ring, that quick of a fight, he didn't even work, man. He literally kicked out, and Mateusz Gamrot literally still held his ankle, followed him to the ground, got a slick Kimura. It was impressive. There was about a split second, maybe 10 seconds, where Little Heathen was also working for a Kimura, and even the announcers were asking, or they were saying it like, "Oh, he's gonna get a Kimura. He's got to step over," and then sure enough, you saw Mateusz Gamrot step over, rip his own Kimura. It was impressive, bro. It was cool to watch, and definitely skyrocketed Mateusz, up to some big categories next. We're gonna see where he's going, but I got a little pick that I think is gonna be a fun one coming up.
All right, yeah, we'll get to that one in just a couple of minutes, man. But I will say this: that was the most impressive part to me, is that Stevens had his own Kimura, and Gamrot said, "Nah, I'm gonna be the one finishing you with the Kimura." He also didn't. I didn't get a picture of it. There was no picture of it, but this is another case of the. Jordan Levitt versus I don't remember who he fought, but where his face was all in the booty, you know what I mean? Booty to the face, right? Mm-hmm. This was literally that again. And I do need to mention this. Jakar Close had a little bit of salt to mention. He was all like, "Listen, man, you're so savage and all of that good stuff, you know what I mean? How does it feel that the only fight that you won in the last 3 years was in the weigh-ins against a dude with his hands behind his back?" And he's insinuating when, he got the push on Jakar Close. Not only that, he also put up another tweet saying like, "Yo, look, like Mr. Savage, whatever the case, how does that smell?" Indicating when Stevens' face was all in the booty of Mateusz Gamrot, man. I will say that Gamrot, he mentioned, I believe it was right in the post-fight presser, like right immediately in that interview, that is his best position to be in, that he finishes everybody in that same position, and that once he got there, his coaches were just like, this is your spot, man. This is your position. Relax, go to work. And he was like 10 seconds later, boom, Kimura, done, right? I loved the man's confidence. I loved how hyped he was. I loved how he was sitting there like with Paul Felder, like, "Oh, what's up?" Like, let's rock. Let's not forget, this is a man in Paul Felder who is now retired, who is now just the interview guy, right? Triathlon, the Iron Lung, shout out to the Irish Dragon, one of my favorite fighters. But I will say, this is a man who was in the top 10 of the lightweight division like a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, right? So Gamrot was probably looking up, being like, "Ooh, this is a dude I would like to fight," right? Even Islam Makhachev, right, when he was talking. So it's so interesting to me because they both kind of sizing each other up, you know what I mean? Paul Felder's like, "I ain't trying to get beat up, bro." It's the nice guy now. He's the nice Irish Dragon now, the Iron Lung, right? But huge win for Mateusz Gamrot, and like you said, we'll talk about some matchmaking in just one moment. Now, AJ, we talked about it earlier. This is the thrill and the agony. Number 12 ranked Marion Reneau, no longer ranked, now retired. And Miesha Tate takes that spot. Now she jumps up to number 12. We'll see what happens in the UFC rankings. Clearly, we have our own rankings that will be also updated on Tuesday. Check out the website, bloodywaterpodcast.com. However, Cupcake, man, Miesha Tate, she looked like she didn't skip a beat, dude. She looked like she had never been retired for 5 years. So I have to eat some crow really quickly, right? So both of us do, but let me go first, AJ. Miesha Tate, man, in terms of her striking, when people said, or when Eric Nixick out of Extreme Couture, a wrestling camp, right, was like, "Oh, dude, you don't even know. She's looking so good. The striking is so improved, all that." I'm just like, okay, all right, we'll see. We saw, man. She put on a show. She put on a clinic. Listen, that jab was nice. The right hand was nice. The head movement was nice, man. She did not look like this was 2013 anymore, which is incredible to me. It shouldn't be, because as you noted before, AJ, you better have improved, man. It's been 5 years. Like, what have you been doing? Now, hopefully you improved. But with that being said, man, she does not look like somebody who was a pioneer of women's MMA. She does not look like somebody who was involved in the Ronda Rousey era of women's fighting, where they had very little technical ability in terms of the striking. And I don't mean that in a derogatory sense, but I think it's true in terms of men's MMA, which had been around far longer than women's MMA, in terms of being sanctioned and being legal and regulated. Men's MMA, they showed a lot more skill and technical capabilities than the women did. However, they catching up, man, and they nice with it. They super nice with it, AJ. So like I said, Miesha Tate, dude, very, very impressive win, man. I cannot say it enough. All respect to her. I know she's chasing that belt now. Clearly, you're going to need a couple more big wins before you get up there. But I will say, she already noted it before she retires. She wants to get that rematch in with the preacher's daughter, man, and I would love to see it. But with that being said, AJ, give me your take, eat your crow real quick, you feel me? And then we can just talk about this matchup in its entirety.
Ooh, Derick, when something like this happens, brother, I love that taste of humble pie. Yeah, I don't mind being wrong when it's something like this, because Miesha Tate, Cupcake, absolutely put it to Reneau, dog. It was impressive. Like you said, she came out, she was crisp, she was sharp, she was looking good on all the striking, all the grappling, everything. She put on a class, man. It was very impressive. Like I said, I love being wrong when it's something like this, because Miesha Tate proved us wrong, bro. She didn't look like she was a pioneer of the sport. She looked like she's on the pinnacle, on the cusp, bro. It was very impressive. You love to see an old school fighter come back like that. And sure, Marion Reneau is a little bit older than her, so it kind of like in retrospect makes sense. But Miesha Tate looked damn good, man. And what impressed me the most about it is you'll see sometimes a lot of wrestlers who are a lot of grapplers, when they start getting a little bit of striking, going, they'll leave their hands extended and start reaching for takedowns, leaving them vulnerable to shots from the outside by the other strikers. But not Miesha Tate at all, brother. She knew exactly what to do. Stayed, she popped her shots out, come back, get the guard up, get in close on the inside for the takedown. It was super impressive, bro. I was watching the fight and thinking the whole time, like, damn, like, okay, apparently I don't know shit. Like, all right, cool, man. This is what you like to see. This is very impressive. You can tell she was working hard. That was the biggest thing, man. She was putting in that work, grinding it out, making sure that when she comes back to the big show, she's going to make people like us look stupid, which I love, bro. That was impressive. That was really cool to watch. And she, I think she has some a big future, even though she's already had a past in the division. I think she's a big future coming up. We're going to see a lot of Cupcake around. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And I completely agree with you, man. I am so happy to be wrong, because she proved us wrong in such a definitive fashion. It's a feel-good story, man. Clearly, we're looking at it in terms of logic. We're saying, okay, well, the more active fighter who's been against high-level competition, very, very active, right? She's fighting someone who hasn't fought in 6 years. It doesn't make sense. Obviously, the odds makers, they knew something that we didn't. Maybe they saw some film, maybe, something. But I will say I did not expect this, man. And I will gladly eat that big piece of humble pie, man, because Miesha Tate looking like she's going to be doing something big. However, I think she's going to get tested in her next matchup, and I do not think it'll be as easy as this matchup was. Now, let's talk about the retrospect in terms of Marion Reneau really quickly, the Belizean bruiser, AJ. One, I will say, she, in my personal opinion, she did not fight like this was the last fight of her career. She did not fight like she left everything out there. To me personally, I felt like she fell into the same trap of inactivity, not throwing the volume that she needs, getting a little too hesitant. And I think personally, she does not say that this was the case. I think she was a little starstruck by fighting Miesha Tate. You gotta remember this, right? For folks like me and you, maybe we weren't as tapped in, you know what I'm saying, to like the star of Miesha Tate because Ronda Rousey eclipsed her and all of that craziness, However, she was like every female fighter, Ronda Rousey and Miesha Tate, that was like their idol. That's who they looked up to because she was the originator, right? You know what I'm saying? OG, Strikeforce champion, UFC champion. Come on. So it's got to be a little bit of that starstruck nature, With that being said, though, AJ, Marion Reneau, the last point that I have on this that was a little bit concerning is that she had her family in her corner. First time she gets finished is in literally her retirement bout, which is the saddest thing to me personally. However, in her post-fight presser, she says that this is exactly how it was supposed to go. I'm glad that I put it all out there, and I'm glad I went out, that it happened the way that it did, because this was like almost like some predeterminism. Like this was supposed to happen. It was meant to be this way. I personally believe that she took the loss, she got finished, and I think she was relieved. I sensed relief. And the reason why is because it's got to be the hardest thing, right? To finally be like, I have to be done. This is it. That's the end. This is the end of my career. And you have to learn it the hard way. So if she would have won, there would have been this lingering thing in the back of her mind. This is my opinion. In the back of her mind, she might have been like, well, I won. Maybe I can go out, and do it again in a couple of years or whatever if I get that itch. Now, you got finished in your last fight. I think that's the relief of like, okay, I'm done. That's it. That was the results. I did what I needed to do, and it wasn't enough. So it's okay, though, because to sit there and be at the highest level in the UFC, fight some of the greats like she has fought, man, she had a great career. I mean, I guess I shouldn't use that word too loosely. She had a very solid career, man. I think that she's a great example for a lot of people, and sometimes that's even better than what your record indicates, is how sportsmanlike were you? How was your character? And she showed she has incredible character, man. So just give me your take before we move on to the main event.
Yeah, man, I agree with it 100%. I was a little sad to see that Reneau was still staying calm, still staying on the back foot, not really letting off, because that's what we were talking about in the pre-show, that she needed to be first. She needed to fire first, because this would have came down to a decision win. She would have lost the decision as well. Miesha Tate looks so good. But for Reneau, I didn't really think about anything like that as far as the finality of losing, but I can see how that would be a weight off of her shoulders. There's nothing worse than thinking, well, can I still do it? Like, did I make the wrong decision retiring? Or, I just won my last one in pretty impressive fashion. I could probably go out there again. And that back and forth, that uncertainty, that unstableness is really what causes a lot of people just in general life anxiety, So I guess at the end of the day, it's sad to see an old school vet like Marion Reneau go out like that. But for her own sanity and mental clarity and everything like that, I guess it is good to see her actually notice that this is a final match. The finality of going forward and getting finished like that. She's thinking, okay, well, I guess it is time. So as far as that, it's good to see. But overall, general takeaway from Reneau's side, it wasn't as impressive, and it was sad to watch her not what I would consider going out on your shield and leaving it all out there. They always say leave it all on the field, leave it all out there, so that way you did your best. Well, in this way, if she did do that and then she got finished, I guess it's a happy ending in general, even though she got finished. So as far as that goes, it's interesting. It's an interesting takeaway. I would have never thought about it like that, but she's happy. That's cool.
Exactly. That's cool, man. And I will just say in the conclusion of this is so we had the first fight that we talked about was fight of the night, Billy Q and Benitez. Performance of the night with Vieira. Performance of the night with Gamrot. Performance of the night with Miesha Tate. So she locked that in. She got an extra $50K on top of her comeback fight. And this is her first win since March 3rd of 2016. That's crazy, right? That was the champion. That's when she won the championship against Holly Holm, man. That's a long time, An 11th finish of her career. Very impressive win. Let's move on to this main event. All right, AJ. This one, I think I got this one on the button. Islam Makhachev, man. Submission in the 4th round against the Brazilian grappling ace in Thiago Moises. I was off by 1 round. I thought he'd get it done in the 3rd round. I didn't think they would even go to the championship rounds. However, this was very much like the other prediction I made. This was Thiago Moises versus Beneil Dariush all over again, man. When you got those pressure fighters who are just keeping on top of you, doing all of that craziness, throwing the ground and pound, dropping elbows, trying to search for the submission. I don't know, man. My biggest takeaway from the jump, and I'm going to let you get in on this, Thiago Moises looked like he could have been a big bantamweight or a very small featherweight versus Makhachev. They did not look like they were in the same weight class. It looks like sometimes when you play the UFC video game, when I be on there, right? I'll be playing and you play the online matchup, and like for an example, they'll have some fighters who are in multiple weight classes. So like Cynthia Calvillo. I don't remember off the top of my head what her weight class is, if she's 25 or 35, but they would have her in, like, if you go to the lower weight class and she's still in it, she's like towering over the rest of the little characters. And this is my analogy, my metaphor for saying that's what I witnessed when I'm watching Makhachev versus Moises. He just looked like Moises looked like he didn't belong in there with Makhachev, and this dude looks like a world beater, man. This dude looks like the hype has delivered. He got the finish. He needed the finish, man. Super duper impressive to submit a dude and become the first fighter in Moises' career. Moises is 15-4 or 15-5 now in his MMA career. Makhachev is the first fighter to submit Thiago Moises. So impressive, AJ. Give me your take on how this fight went down.
Yeah, it was an impressive fight. Makhachev played his game. Moises started off pretty strong. I was a little off put by that. He came out, started off really strong, but then wilted throughout the rest of the fight. Makhachev stayed calm, played his game, and literally it was game plan from the jump. Makhachev was able to cut off the ring, stayed calm. What impressed me most about the entire fight is Makhachev's kicks. Very impressive, very, very hard, very tall. He was coming back, head kicks, body kicks, literally maintaining distance with those. And then anytime he would go in for the takedown, easy takedowns all day. A lot of people were calling it a mauling. That Moises got mauled by Makhachev. But but I wouldn't really call it a mauling. As far as the first couple rounds went, it was pretty not pretty back and forth, but at least entertaining enough to consider it something different than an absolute domination mauling that we used to see from Khabib. Now, the big thing about me when I'm watching these fights, I can see how Makhachev's talent is there, but he's not really a big draw, at least anyway, from what I'm seeing. Like, he's not very exciting to watch, if that makes sense. Like, he's not really calling, he's calling out RDA and he's calling out Michael Chandler and stuff. But as far as the media attention, he stays kind of boring. Even in his fights when he's like getting the advice from Khabib, he's just like, yeah, cool, bro. All right, I'll do that. And real calm, real cool, collected, which is what you want to see in a fighter, until we want to see that passion and that excitement, that Mateusz Gamrot picture of him screaming after a dub. We didn't really get that from Makhachev. He just stays calm, chill, and everybody to Makhachev is a non-issue, which if you want a little bit of attention and you want a media draw, you want them to be issues so there's something to fight for. Whereas Makhachev, he's dominating so many people and kind of just putting it to them that it's a little boring. It's almost asinine to say that a fighter who's putting it to people and dominating them through, first 3 rounds and then finishing them in the 4th is boring, but he stays so calm and it looks so easy to him that it doesn't even look like anybody belongs. So he stays a little boring. It's weird to see. It's a kind of crazy thing. And Khabib was also falling to this, he was falling victim to this exact same sort of thing because he was so dominant in one sort of fashion that nobody really cared until he got to fight Conor. And he only made his name off of Conor. But before that, nobody really heard of Khabib. So same thing with Makhachev. I think he needs to find that big name that's going to make him draw out a little bit of emotion, draw out a little bit of back and forth so we can see something different than, yeah, he's nobody, I smash him, because that's the same line that Makhachev says for everybody. So, but for the fight anyway, very impressive. I mean, you can't really take much away from him when he's just literally being the bully the entire fight, controlling the entire pressure, literally imposing his will. Even when Moises wants to do anything, he'll match it back. He'll kick you back. It was an impressive win. Can't take much away from him besides, like I was saying, with that little bit of media influence, I guess is the best way you can put it. What do you think, Derick?
Well, listen, it sounds like you saying this man needs to learn how to cut a promo, because even with Khabib was sitting there being like, your jiu-jitsu is 0, your striking 0, you know what I mean? I will destroy you, I will smash, you need a little bit of that, and you do need that fiery passion. We already talked about it earlier this show, man. This is a business. You can't just smash people. You got to be entertaining, and I will agree with you, because when I was watching it, I was just like, standard Makhachev performance, he's just putting it on his opponent and there's nothing that they can do. This is very similar to the Drew Dober fight. The Drew Dober fight wasn't very exciting, but the dominance was exciting from the hardcores. The people who are like, God damn, you know how good this dude is and you see how he's just making it look easy? That's the part that's exciting. However, one part of Makhachev's game that I think would be valuable, however, it's very risky because he had the most to lose clearly in this fight, you know what I mean? This was like a win-win for Moises. Now he lost and got smashed, and I mean, not really win-win anymore, but when Makhachev had Moises back against the cage and he was just standing in front of him, just kind of stalking him, not letting his hands go. And they even mentioned it in the broadcast. They were like, yo, this man needs to just let the hands go, take the risk. But why can't he take the risk? Because he even said it himself. He was all like, listen, man, I think that I could have finished Moises on the feet personally, but, my coaches, they kept just saying, take him down, father's plan, yada, yada, yada. So he's like, I don't know why, but I have to listen to these guys. And it sounded like it was a joke. I like Makhachev because he has like that dry humor, and I'm a big fan of dry humor, that sarcasm that just like, you don't sound like you're making a joke, but it really is a joke. And he says it himself. He was like, I need to get better with my English, but I make a lot of jokes when I'm speaking in Russian and all of that good stuff, man. So I think that the potential is there. But the man, yeah, he sounds like he's just like off a sleeping pill, or he's just lit all the time. Everything is slow motion. Even when they're trying to interview him, man, he makes no eye contact with like the female reporters or anything like that. He's just looking down, just being like, yeah, like that whispering tone, but he's a killer and he will maul anybody. And I agree, this wasn't a mauling. This was a domination, not quite a mauling. Khabib versus like Michael Johnson, like that's the mauling. He needs to start talking to his opponents. Maybe, how about that, right? Being like, I deserve the belt. This, smashing him Khabib style. I don't know. It's hard. Here's the thing too. Every time that he fights, he's going to be compared to Khabib. And that's like the worst comparison because that's the pinnacle. So when you're being compared and every opponent you're smashing, it's hard to just up that performance every single time. kind of like Conor McGregor, man. You know, we're so used to the flashiness, we're so used to the craziness, the knockouts. When he does it now, you're just like, this ain't the old Conor. You know what I mean? But different story for a different boat, man. Islam Makhachev, second finish in a row, 17th finish of his career. He's finished 17 of his 19 career fights, which is just so impressive, dude. And majority of his fights not the majority, but a lot of his fights have been in the UFC. So that's just super duper impressive, man. Tough one for Thiago Moises. He rose to the occasion in terms of not being scared. But just the same thing that they said about Moises when he fought Dariush, they said he wasn't ready. This is kind of the same situation, man. I just don't think he was quite ready for that. I will say Makhachev, you mentioned it already, called out a mixture of Michael Chandler and RDA. Don't really know how that one works. And then he ended up calling like somebody else out after that. But they were just kind of forcing him. They were like, dude, you have to call somebody out. Yeah. But with that being said, man, great night of fights. Great main card. Literally 5 finishes all across the board. 80% finish rate on this entire card, man. Very impressive. But AJ, man, let's do some matchmaking, man. We've been recapping for long enough. So let's start off with the middleweights. I want to go by weight class, so we'll go from heaviest to smallest, right? So start off with Rodolfo Vieira, man. He was ranked number 30 going into this fight. Number 35, excuse me. I see him jumping up about 5 spots to number 30. And I'm going to give you my first take, man. I think that that individual who just made his UFC debut, who just smashed his opponent in his UFC debut, and I forget who his opponent was, but this is Bruno Silva, Blindado. You know, I think that he stormed into the UFC with a smashing KO in his debut, man. And I think this would be a very interesting matchup for Rodolfo Vieira because of the striking threat and the grappling, being able to match that grappling. Not like obviously match the jiu-jitsu, but being able to be a really good grappler. What do you think about that, and who do you have?
I like that. I like the Bruno Silva choice. And I kind of went with the same idea. I wanted to see a guy who can mix it up on the feet, but is very, very talented on the ground. And I'm going Julian Marquez. I think that would be an interesting fight. They're both big dudes. That'd be cool to see him, Vieira versus Julian Marquez, for that exact thing. Marquez can mix it up on the ground, very devastating hands, but also very talented on the ground. So I think for the same reasons, that's who I'm going with, man. What do you think?
No, I really like that. And I think that if that one stays on the feet, Marquez is knocking Vieira's head off his shoulders, because that's power that you do not want to play with right there. Either one of those are really good. I threw out a little second one just in case, which was Trevin Giles. I think that could be an interesting matchup because the dude is so well-rounded. You saw he got put in 1 million leg locks. I remember who he was fighting either, but he got in 1 million leg locks and he was able to get out of all of them. I think it should be really interesting. And, you know, he was on a 3-fight win streak before getting knocked out by Duplessis, man. But anyways, with that being said, move on to the lightweights, man. Easy one for Islam Makhachev, right? I have 2 options. One of them he called out. The other one I already mentioned on the preview show, so this should come to no surprise. Who do you have, AJ?
Man, I really want to see him fight RDA. That's who I think he needs to fight, man. And, you know, it might just be because of location bias over here in Cali, seeing RDA all the time. But he was even in the he was at the Conor Poirier fight as the backup, RDA was, and still you saw that Makhachev was still talking shit. So I'm excited to see that fight. I definitely think that would be one to really watch for because RDA is an absolute legend, and they already have a little bit of back and forth. So it might be that little bit of jump we need, a little bit of that push to see Makhachev really come out and make a splash. I would like to see that one coming forward. What about you, Derick? Who are the 2?
Well, so I told you that I think that if Makhachev could win in dominating, very impressive fashion, which he did, that he would only be 1 fight away from a title, in my opinion. That is given that Conor McGregor doesn't come in and muddy the picture up and make it all weird and whatnot. However, this is what I will say. I think that Michael Chandler, who he called out, that's the move. I already said Michael Chandler would be the guy that he should probably fight, but then I mentioned another guy, AJ. Beneil Dariush, man. What's up? You know, come on. Makhachev just beat Moises better than Beneil Dariush did when he smashed him, and that was Moises' debut. Let's go and prove a point over here. Let's see who's got the best smothering style, because I'll tell you what, man, Dariush got granite chin, great jiu-jitsu, great grappling, and Islam Makhachev is basically the same thing, man. I think that these two are going to have to meet, whether it's for a title or to determine who is going to be fighting for the title, but this is going to be very, very interesting to me. So I honestly believe Dariush is a future champion, and he's a dark horse of the division, man. Dude's 21-4-1 in lightweight, man. Dude's a savage. But that's I think either one of those makes sense. And I would just lastly say, did you know that Makhachev also called out Tony Ferguson? Yeah.
That was the other one?
Yeah, and he was all like, yeah, I'd really like to fight Tony Ferguson. I just want to help him retire, you know what I mean? But I don't think that has as much steam. It's a big name, but this dude's on, like 3 losses in a row? Like, that's not what you need to go be the next dude fighting for the title when, you know, El Kakoy's been getting kind of smashed, man. You know, we love him over here on this program, but it's true, right?
Yeah, I really like the Beneil Dariush fight, and especially with the Tony Ferguson. Nobody likes to watch somebody who wants to bully a kid, if that makes sense. And nobody's going to bully Tony Ferguson, but he is on a 3 fight losing streak, excuse me. So it's almost like, you know how they say in comedy, you don't punch down?
Yeah.
I could see Makhachev on that one kind of trying to punch down. But although at the end of the day, you always want to take the easiest fight for the biggest paycheck. So and don't get me wrong, Tony Ferguson is not an easy fight by all means. So. Yeah. I would like to see the Beneil Dariush fight the most, to be honest, out of all of those.
Absolutely, man. And on that point, some people would argue with that premise of like, no, half of comedy is punching down. That is what you do. So, you know what I'm saying? But anyways, okay, Mateusz Gamrot, man, he came in at number 20. He moves up. And I didn't actually, really quickly, I didn't say it for Islam Makhachev. He was ranked number 9. I think he could move up a couple spots to number 7. I'll just leave it at that point. Mateusz Gamrot, he came in at number 20, and I got him moving up just a couple spots too, number 18, +2 in the rankings. And I would love to see him fight number 14th ranked, and he's not official. This is in like Tapology rankings. Arman Tsarukyan, man. I think that would be a great matchup. He's a legit prospect who a majority of the top 15 in the lightweight division does not want to fight. So, you know, I think grappling, they can match up very well on grappling. Both of them got nice hands. I think Gamrot has better striking personally, but Tsarukyan is a big boy, man, and he's not to be messed with. He's very dangerous. What do you think?
Yeah, Tsarukyan is my second choice. I really like him for the fact that they're both up and coming, both kind of going to make a name for themselves here in the future. Both have very, very good prospects as far as going forward. Now, who I really want to see him fight, though, and this is a little bit of a reach, Gregor Gillespie. Okay. I think Mateusz Gamrot versus Gregor Gillespie would be an absolute banger of a match. Gregor Gillespie is so well talented, so well rounded that it's going to be a very hard fight for Gamrot. Now, will that happen? Like I said, it's a little bit of a reach, but I do think that'd be a good fight to watch going forward. Absolutely. And for that same reason, I chose Tsarukyan as my backup just in case, because I do think that would be a good fight going forward as well.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. I think that would be a banger. Talk about matchmaking right there. That would be an absolute banger. And I did give for my backup Damir Ismagulov, because that's another dude who is just a monster. Unknown, dark horse, you know what I mean? So I don't think they would fight for that reason. But with that being said, man, I just love the grappling abilities. And, you know, I mean, Ismagulov is a beast of his own. But we move on to the featherweights. Billy Quarantillo, he opened up at number 38. I think with this win, you can move him up a couple slots because Benitez, to be fair, was ranked far behind Billy Q going into this one. I think you got to give him Juicy J, Julian Erosa. You know what I'm saying? I think that, yeah, he got knocked out by Sung Woo Choi in his last fight, but that was, I mean, I don't think anybody really expected it to happen the way that it did, man. And I think that for Julian Erosa, who's got great grappling, he's so tall and lanky for the division, man, and he's always dangerous, it could be a really, really good fight. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I see where you're going with that. When I was looking, I almost chose the exact same one, but I went with the guy that knocked him out, Sung Woo Choi. Yeah. Just because he's a little bit above. They Billy Q and Choi both have losses to Gavin Tucker, so it's going to be interesting to see how that whole matchup plays out. And I mean, I think Billy Q versus another two long lanky dude who can bang is going to be a lot of fun. So although Julian Juicy Rosa, I just butchered his name, Julian Erosa, excuse me, or Sung Woo Choi would be a very, very entertaining fight for Billy Q. I definitely think either way, either of those matchups are going to be a fun mix-em up for both fighters.
Absolutely, man. Either way, I just want to see Billy Q fight somebody who somebody that's not the person he called out, who was Charles Rosa, you know, Boston's strong, you know, Charles. Listen, I get it, the rivalry, New York, Boston, like totally, but come on, man, push up the rankings, not down, you know what I'm saying? But anyways, man, last piece of matchmaking, women's bantamweight, Miesha Cupcake Tate, man, opened up as number 18, which was kind of weird because she hadn't fought in so long, but she was just kind of hovering, you know what I mean? It goes to show that the women's bantamweight rank isn't very deep as well. But I think she takes Marion Reneau's spot. I think it's only fair, moves up to number 12, immediately ranked. And I think that Miesha Tate is in a very weird spot, AJ. And the reason why is because I think she's looking to fight back towards a title shot. However, I don't think that because of her star power, I don't think that she's going to be sitting here trying to just take anybody. I think it has to make sense. The fighter has to be a draw. They have to be exciting, something like that. I don't think she's fighting unranked opponents and just randoms here. From here, it has to be somebody ranked, man. So who do you have? And I'll give mine after, but who do you have? Because I have a real tough matchup for her next.
I have a real tough matchup for her too, and I'm going Julia Avila.
That's the one.
Did I just steal it? Because that's a hard match, man. Julia Avila is so well talented, very good on the hands, very good on the feet. I forgot who her last opponent was. You might be able to pull it up, but I'm pretty sure
Stoliarenko,
and she won by a submission win too. Yep. So it's going to be interesting to see because now the ground game has been nullified. Now we really get to see where Cupcake Tate's hands lie, and Avila can crack, brother. So I think that's a great fight. So is that who you had too?
Yeah, that's the one. I don't got no backup because I think that's the one. I think we need to make that matchup. Raging Panda, this would be a good test for her too, man. Imagine getting a win over Miesha Tate. That would skyrocket her in terms of the division. You know what I mean? Because Julia Avila is a little bit of an outcast right now. Got kicked out of her gym, a lot of problems going on and whatnot. She had to open up her own gym, all that stuff, man. So I'm a big fan of Raging Panda. Also a big fan of Miesha Tate, clearly, especially with this performance that she just had. You know, she's kind of like back into the freshness, the frontal, aspect of the mind. But that's the matchmaking, man. I think that, let's see what comes to fruition, man. We've had a couple that have truly come to fruition after we've match made it. Some of them made sense. Some of them were reaches, but either way, man. Let's move on to this last part before we get out of here, AJ. I don't have much for us this week in terms of the word on the street, but I have just two stories. One is really quick. The other one I really want your take on. In Bellator news, right? Because Bellator just happened. Don't forget, we got another promotion going on over here. Juliana Velasquez, man, who got she won the title against the Eliminator. I forget, she's a Hawaiian chick. She was legit, you know what I mean? Good wrestler, decent striker. But Juliana Velasquez is big, and she defeats Denise Kielholtz via split decision to retain her women's flyweight championship and make her first title defense. Now, I need to ask you, AJ, there's some big boxing fights that went on too. The Jermell Charlo fought. He had a split draw. It was very interesting, and this is kind of along the lines that I want to ask you about. So Velasquez was outstruck 427 to 264, so minus 163, right? But she secured 4 takedowns. So my question to you is, can you give defense to somebody who won a fight even though she was outstruck by a ridiculous margin? Even though she secured a bunch of takedowns and got the control time, getting outstruck by that margin and still winning a split decision is a little questionable. And a lot of people actually said that this was a robbery and that the Kielholtz should have won. What do you think?
I mean, I would have to agree with him, especially if you didn't do anything with the takedowns. Mm-hmm. Even let's say even if she secured she secured 10 takedowns, that means that Kielholtz got up 9, 10, 8 times, Yeah. So I definitely think it all comes down to play of how efficient you were in those takedowns and how much damage you did after that. Because if you're getting outstruck 163 times, we just saw, I just blanked his name too, the dude that fought Sean O'Malley, he got punched in the face 117 times. That's Ain't Chris no Martino. One saying if he took Sean O'Malley down 4 times that he would have won that fight. No way. It's just not. It's asinine to think that's even the case. Unless when you do take them down, you hold them there, you beat them up, you actually ground and pound, and that's where her 264 strikes came into play. For this one, I don't think that was the case. So is this justified? Not at all. I do think this is a robbery alert, and it's crazy to me that takedowns, and obviously I'm a little biased here, but it's crazy to me that takedowns matter so much in the mind of the judges. Because sure, you can take somebody down, but keeping them down is where the real hard aspect of the sport comes into play. Because the second your butt hits the mat and you stand back up, that shouldn't be a takedown. Technically, they do score a takedown, but it shouldn't be because you weren't able to hold them down and inflict a certain amount of damage. So that being said, I definitely think this is an interesting one to actually see how much they judge takedowns, because in my mind, it doesn't really matter until you start putting leather to face or leather to body and actually hurting somebody, or even elbows. They don't have leather on your elbows, but you get some elbows, some knees, some stuff where you're actually doing damage to the opponent on the ground, then I think that takedown should matter a lot more. What do you think about that, Derick?
Well, I would agree with you, man. I do think that the judging, a lot of the time, it's a little questionable, and the reason why is because they look at it, it's the optics of the fight, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? They're looking at it like, okay, well, she held her down, she must be winning the fight. But I agree with you. You have to do something with the takedown. You have to be active. You have to inflict damage, because if you're just laying on top of somebody, I mean, you're not really doing anything either. You know what I mean? Technically, you have the dominant position, I guess, but that's just where the nuance of judging comes in. And that's why MMA is such an exciting sport, because you can interpret it so many different ways, you know what I mean? However, it is very, very important that I do note this, because context matters. Velasquez broke her right hand, I believe, in the second round of the fight, right? So she fought 5 rounds, she got the job done, and to do that off a broken hand, man, is very, very impressive. I mean, Ryan Hall, when he lost to Ilia Topuria, he broke his hand, he said, on the first punch, and couldn't use the hand at all anymore, right? But, Velasquez still out there throwing it, doing all that good stuff, man. Very, very impressive. And the last story that I got before we get out of here, AJ, is going to be a great lesson and a great point on what I be saying all the time, man. Do not fight. If you out on the streets and doing all that stuff, do not fight. One, because I see too many clips of people street fighting, getting knocked down, smacking the back of their head on asphalt, on concrete, and you got lifelong damage after that, man. At least be like, hey, man, let's go fight at the park. Let's go take it to a grassy patch or something before we get down. However, we need to talk about something that I brought up, I believe it was just a couple weeks ago, right? Joe Schilling, MMA veteran, man. He was at the bar. He was trying to get past somebody who was a drunk patron at the bar, and he used his tools for the wrong reasons, my man. He pieced this dude up, taught him a little bit of lesson on not to be an asshole and how there's real life consequences to your actions. However, Joe Schilling is learning that there are also consequences to his actions, regardless of what he thinks, because Justin Balboa sues Joe Schilling for more than $30,000 following viral bar knockout. And I'm just going to read this article just a little bit. Justin Balboa, the man caught on video getting knocked out by Joe Schilling, has filed a personal injury lawsuit against the fighter and the bar where the incident took place. The corporate entity behind B Square Burgers in front of these are co-defenders, with Bellator MMA vet being sued for battery and the bar for negligence. Balboa seeks damages in excess from $30,000 each. His co-attorney Rich Conforti told MMA Fighting the total damages are well over $100,000. We've initiated the lawsuit. The defendants are in the process of being served. We believe Mr. Balboa has considerably high damages claim for what has happened based on the actions of Mr. Schilling and the negligence of bro management. Ultimately, what we're saying here, man, is if you want to sit there and use your hands and piece these people up and you know what you're doing, that's kind of part of it too. The Balboa, I'm just going to read this last excerpt and we'll comment on it. Balboa describes Schilling as a professional fighter, quote, uniquely skilled and trained to be brutally efficient and abnormally dangerous with his bare hands, and has a history of being involved in street altercations, including using physical force against third parties. That's the thing right there, man. You're a fighter, so they're going to use it against you and say, well, he should have known better, has a greater responsibility. So now, who knows how much money people are making post MMA career, especially when you weren't truly at the highest level. The Conor McGregor is making the millions of dollars and all that. Who's to say what his financial status is looking like right now? And if the damages are for over $100,000, man, that is a huge hit for just a split moment decision that you probably only made due to ego and due to, I'm not going to take no shit. And it's like, sometimes, man, you save yourself a lot of headaches and a lot of money if you just turn the other cheek. But I understand myself personally, that's not always the correct route to take. So just give me your take on this, AJ.
Man, this one infuriates me because this dude Justin Balboa is playing bitch. Like he was in the bag. You saw in the video he did the shook move, gave him a little head nod. And to me, that's a fight. Like, bro, I'm not gonna let you touch me. That's just the thing. If you're in my personal bubble, I'm not gonna let you touch me, even if you think you didn't, swing on me or whatever. It's just not how it's gonna be. For my safety, for my family's safety, I'm not gonna let you even get near me. That's why they teach you, square up. You get to the side. Okay, you want to throw something? I'm coming back at you. So to me, homeboy's playing bitch. It's you don't want to see it. The line in here that infuriates me the most: uniquely skilled and trained to be brutally efficient and normally dangerous with his bare hands. Shouldn't all of us? Yeah. Shouldn't all of us be trained to defend ourselves and our families and loved ones and random people that need defending? That should be the case. We should all be trained to do that. Now, where it gets a little iffy, where I can kind of see why he has claims to it, or at least why Joe Schilling probably shouldn't be out there doing this all the time, is because he says he has a history of being involved in street altercations, including use of physical force against third parties. So, I mean, right there, you can see how Joe Schilling is out there being a bully and probably not using his talents to the best of his abilities, or at least the most beneficial of his abilities. So I can see where that one gets a little iffy as far as the mind of the judges and the mind of everyone else, the public opinion court. Now, that being said, do I think Justin Balboa has a right to this? Not at all. I think homeboy took an ass whipping that he'd fully deserved, because if you're standing up we've all seen those dudes standing up in the middle of the bar trying to, block the walkway and act tough and all this stuff. And 9 times out of 10, they deserve an ass whooping. It's what happens. I'm a big fan of the old days where you take your ass whooping and you keep it moving, or you deliver the ass whooping and you keep it moving. It's just how life goes. Sometimes some of my best friends, actually legitimately all of my best friends, we've all punched each other in the face, but some of them started because it was an altercation between two sides, and we ended up bonding over the fact that we're able to not play bitch and actually stand there and swing and then be okay with the repercussions that happened after that, the aftermath. Overall, I don't like this. I don't like this one bit. I definitely don't like Joe Schilling just cracking some dude for no reason. Although I do think the dude did deserve a reason. But at the end of the day, Joe Schilling could have easily just mushed him, put his hand in his face and say, get away from me, bro. Get out of here. Or trip him, put it down, do like a Matt Serra does, and just literally take him down and hold him down and say, like, I'm not going to hurt you. Yeah. Chill out, you drunk bastard. Like, it's all good. And we even saw Ryan Hall do the exact same thing, where he knew, I'm very talented in this aspect. I know I could break your face open, but what I'm going to do, take you a little takedown, hold you down. That's it. I'm not going to hurt you any more than that. I'm going to hurt your ego a lot, and I'm going to tell you I could kill you, but I'm not going to. So, yeah, it's a hard line to ride, because when the adrenaline starts pumping and you know what you can do with this right hand, I mean, it's hard to not do that. But at this level, you do need to be a little smarter as far as that goes. What do you think, Derick?
Absolutely, man. So a couple of notes on the points that you made. One, I do absolutely agree with you. It's my personal belief. If I was the ruler of the world, I'd say in public education, we will train people under martial arts, right? You must learn some level of martial arts, whether it's wrestling, boxing, jiu-jitsu, karate, Muay Thai, whatever the case may be. People should know how to defend themselves, because real life situations will arise. And this was a real life situation. Like you said, this dude instigated the situation, blocks the walkway. You're just trying to respectfully get past, and dude tries to pump fake you. You know what I mean? And when you try to make people flinch, what would people do before? You make them flinch. Oh, you flinch, I get to punch you in the arm. Guess what? In the real world, you try to make me flinch, I'm firing back. You know what I'm saying? However, I do also agree. Yeah, maybe take the Ryan Hall approach, the Matt Serra approach, when you know, all right, man, if this is going to be captured on camera, maybe he didn't know it was captured on camera, but I think that's the catalyst for this whole entire suing reaction. If this clip didn't go viral, if his ego didn't get destroyed by being, a meme now after you were the tough guy, probably trying to convince the females at the bar, like, oh yeah, bro, I do UFC. You know what I mean? Those type of cats, right? Trying to convince them that, and then now you can't get a date because you viral on Instagram, on TikTok and all that. People are seeing you getting slept. Now you're basically the butt of the joke, and people have very sensitive egos, and people, can't handle it. So how do they take their revenge? Oh, well, I'll sue you. Now, this was in Florida, and I'm not familiar with the laws in Florida, but I do know they have stand your ground, and this has to fall into some of that somehow, right? You ain't killed a man, but you at least gave him a little piece up. If you could shoot somebody because, you know what I mean, it's like castle law, or they're trying to, harm you in any type of way, you should at least be able to piece them up. Or at worst, right, let's go some Washington rules, right, the state of Washington, and be like, all right, we'll do mutual combat. You know what I'm saying? Have a cop come play referee and let me go really give you that ass whooping you deserve. I absolutely agree. People must be held accountable for their actions. And in this case, both parties were held accountable for their actions. However, one's a little more expensive than the other. With that being said, AJ, this is, like I said, I think this is just a good lesson in why, like, if you can avoid the fight, you probably should. I'm a big advocate of what our guy Jocko Willink, he says. He was like, listen, man, there's like a million things that can go bad about a street fight and very, very few things that can actually go good in a street fight. So it's probably in your best interest to stay out of it. With that being said as well, though, I got a lot of caveats. Clearly, listen, man, you can't be no punk, and people, you should defend yourself. You know what I mean? You should not allow people to bully you. That's the thing I cannot stand, bullying people. And that was, to me, if this was a dude, let's say it was Joe Blow, or this was some nerd or whatever, and this dude pump fakes him and then makes him look like, you know what I mean, just embarrasses him and all that. Really? Like, that's what we're doing? You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know, it's a moral issue or whatever, man. But that's it. That's the news wire that we got, folks. Drop a like, subscribe, all that good stuff, because, listen, that is this week's episode, man. Clearly, you can see in the corner, not this corner, but somewhere over there, we got UFC Fight Night 193 coming up. And really quickly, AJ, I just wanted to announce a couple of bouts that we should be looking forward to, folks. And I have quite a lot, right? Corey Sandhagen versus TJ Dillashaw. Listen, you can't wait for that matchup, man. Aspen Ladd versus Macy Chasson. That is another banger. That's a women's bantamweight matchup. The Damage, Darren Elkins is facing off against Derek Minner, fighting out of Glory MMA, man. That's the James Krause camp right there, man. Should be a banger. Two of our favorite women's fighters are matching up. Macy Barber versus Miranda Maverick, man. Banger alert, prospect alert. Should they be matched up so soon? I don't think so, but I'd love to watch it regardless. Punahele Soriano versus Brendan Allen, AJ. I'm just going banger after banger after banger, right? Shamil Abdurakhimov versus Chris Dawkins. We talk about how we love the Dawkins brothers, man. Chris Dawkins, get them hands up, baby. Come on. Nasruddin Imavov is facing off against Ian Heinz, and that'll be a banger. This is probably one of the most exciting right here. Adrian Yanez versus Randy Costa. Holy shit, man. Strap up, get your popcorn ready. And then lastly, we got Hanny Goldie Hannah Goldie, finally making her UFC debut. She's been a bunch of cancellations versus Diana Belbita. It'll be a very interesting matchup, AJ. Like I said, we got a lot of bangers to tune in for. Next time we'll have some good sleepers, all of that good stuff. Do you have any takes on any of those names that I just mentioned?
Woo, you dropped so many, brother. There's the Puna fight, the Giannis fight, bro. Oh my God, we're in store. Nonetheless, Sanhagen, TJ Dillashaw. I mean, come on. And then Macy Barber. I don't even. There's a lot going forward, brother. I'm very excited for this next week of fights, brother.
Yeah, folks. So you know what that means. Tune in on the next week's show. On Friday, we'll be dropping another preview show for UFC Fight Night 193. Drop a like, subscribe. Bloody Water Podcast on Instagram. Bloody Water Pod on Twitter. BloodyWaterPodcast.com is the hub for everything, man. We love the support. Keep dropping comments. Keep liking. Keep subscribing. Listen, we appreciate y'all because without y'all, there would be no show. You know, we'd be over here talking to ourselves. So, AJ, man, great episode as always, and we'll tune back in next week, brother. Until next time, folks. Peace.